Hello and welcome to Unapologetics. I am Brently, and this is the podcast where we read a Christian article and explain why it's stupid. And this one, okay, so this one might have to be cut up into a couple pieces because this is a bit of a long one. I mean, it even at the top, it even gives it as a 16 minutes of content. So it's it's a pretty long article here. It's actually this is from Be Thinking, bethinking.org, and it's evidence for Christianity. And it's what it is. This lecture was given by Professor William Lane Craig at All Souls Church, London, as part of UCCF's 2007 Reasonable Faith Tour. Reasonable Faith. Uh, the lecture is almost 40 minutes in duration and is followed by a 30-minute question and answer session. The transcript below is slightly different to the audio talk, but is from a talk of the same title and covers largely the same ground. Okay, so this is like kind of based off of William Lane Craig's his talk that he gave. So this is there any evidence to show that Christianity is true? Bill Craig, weird. I've never seen him called Bill Craig before. Yeah, Bill Craig. Yeah, yep. Like that just sounds weird. It's like William Lane Craig. But I mean, yeah, I guess that would be, Bill. Gosh, the William to Bill thing fucks me up every time. It's like that just does not sound the same. I guess that's why, because if you got like William, right? And you just like, you just don't feel like William. Can we call you Bill? Can we just do that? Yeah. He's right. He's not a William. He's a Bill. He's not even a Will. Okay. He's a Bill. All right. Yeah, it's just an odd choice for like names and stuff. Anyway, uh, so this is part one. So this is, considers the question and describes the evidence that convinces him. Okay. So he's keeping it within the realm of this is what I think and what is convincing to me. So number one, not enough evidence, God, not enough evidence. The great atheist philosopher Bertrand Russell was once asked what he would say if he found himself standing before God on the judgment day. And God asked him, "Why didn't you believe in me?" Russell replied, "I would say, not enough evidence, God, not enough evidence." As I travel around North America and Europe speaking at university campuses, I think that most of the non Christian university professors that I meet would probably say the same thing. First of all, I fucking. Let me stop right here. I can't stand it when they use the word non-Christian. It freaks me out because it's like, it's like Christian is just so fundamental. Like it's just like it's just such a it's the default, right? Like the default is, of course, you're a Christian, and then if you're what you're not, you're a non-Christian. Like that's just freaky, man. Like the fact that they have made it seem that fundamental to have to be a Christian is just fucking obnoxious to me. Calling people non-Christian. What? You're a non-Christian? What? It's like, are we? It's like they say, like non-astrologer. Like, Are you a non-astrologer? What? Oh my gosh! Because the default is just astrologer. Jesus Christ, how fucking weird. Uh, you know, say the same. And this attitude is in turn communicated to their students. There's not enough evidence. Yeah, I would largely say the same thing. I'd probably be me. I would be smug and say, "You're the all-knowing, all-powerful God. Why are you even asking me a question? You already know everything. Why do you need to ask me anything to begin with?" Yeah, and why didn't you know how much evidence would be convincing to me and provide that particular amount of evidence? Uh, so yeah, that would be because I actually do think that is pretty good response. It makes the most sense anyway, as far as I can tell. A, not enough to be coercive? A question mark. What? Okay, hold on. Not enough evidence to compel someone to become a Christian. Okay. No. No, that's not. No. There's not enough evidence to convince us that there's anything to believe in. It's not that there's not enough evidence to force me to go, okay, fine, I guess I gotta worship God forever now. Like, we know. I mean, that's not that's not what we're saying. We're saying there's not enough evidence to be convincing that it's real, that it exists in reality and not just in the imaginations of people that believe it. That's what there's not enough evidence for. Not, enough to be coercive. I love they just get so it's funny when like smart people, because I mean clearly this dude is pretty smart, right? Very well educated, very smart. It's so funny when they start to like just they have to take that high powered brain of theirs and just direct it in this weird way of like, oh no, I need this crazy, unrealistic, obviously silly belief to be true, right? And so then they do all of this like extra stuff. Oh, there's just not enough evidence to be coercive. No, no, man, you're still straw manning. Like you're just no. There's not enough evidence to be convincing that it exists. Like there's anything to believe in. So, number one, a lot of people. I don't know why this is all numbered and shit. I guess maybe this is from his notes or something. I'm not really sure. Anyway, but it's all numbered and with A's and B's and all this shit. So, a lot of people seem to take it this way. Most people are spiritually apathetic, too busy or unconcerned to be bothered about spiritual things. I mean, right there, that kind of shows. That kind of shows you that it's if people can just be like, nah, I don't even care about that aspect of quote unquote reality, right? Um, if you could just live your life acting like spiritual things don't exist, then doesn't that mean it's probably likely that they don't exist? you know? I mean, just saying. I mean, I guess you could go your whole life and pretend like football doesn't exist, even though it does. I don't know. But it's just when it comes to like football, isn't like an aspect of reality. Like, you know what I mean? That's not like that's not like breathing air or something like they're acting like spirits are. Like it's just a fundamental part of reality. Anyway, about things. Or if they are into spirituality, they may be pursuing gods of their own making, as pursuing gods of their, or as in the New Age movement. They just can't be bothered to look into the evidence for Christianity. Okay, I wouldn't say like, okay, they said a lot of people, but okay, that's not that many people. I mean, I've run into it a lot actually because of I really like these botanical teas. They help me with my back pain and stuff. So I do like talking to these people a lot actually. And yeah, there's a ton of spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual people. And it is similar to like new agey stuff, but they would never tell you that they believe in like they're saying gods of their own making. I think that is a bit of a straw man. I don't think that they would agree to that. If I asked them like, do you believe in the gods that you made up? you know, I'm sure they'd be like, what? No, you know, there. But so I don't know. But they definitely do have some weird, silly fucking beliefs. I'll tell you that right now. And the couple of people that I've had conversations with, really nice people though, by the way, just some of the best people I've run into as far as like how they treat each other and things like that. Really, really, really sweet people. But they just believe a lot of stupid shit. I hate to be that guy, and I always feel like it's like they always want to talk to you, and I guess they're just so used to talking to people that'll just nod along that when I respond without just nodding along, like I'm not even rude. I will gently push back and be like, yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not sure if that's real or whatever, something along those lines. It's always an I don't know and not an I know this is false, because I feel like people respond to that a bit better, and then they try to at least at that point go, oh, well, here's the evidence that this is that that convinces me, because they're a lot more willing to go from like thinking that you don't know to, okay, well, I'll just let them know, and here's how you can know. rather than, oh, this person doesn't believe. You know what I mean? Like, this person thinks this is false straight up. It's just easier to get somebody, to have a conversation with them when you start out with the I don't know, which is technically true. I don't know if this stuff is real or not. It's all over the place. Some of the claims are, like chakras and meridians and stuff. As far as I can tell, there's not enough evidence to suggest that any of that stuff is real. But there's a lot of people that believe in it. And I mean, oh my God, like there was this one dude was telling me there's this stuff called Qigong. And it's the weirdest shit. They will just slap you. They slap you a whole bunch, and they think it cures stuff. Like to the point I was bruised. Like I was like, okay, I'll try anything. I'm that type of person, right? And it was to help my lungs were clogged up, right? Like I was having like bronchitis and stuff like that, right? And I was honestly looking to get I needed to get more of like a steroid, which is proven to be effective on lung stuff, right? And this person like was telling, oh no, you need to try this other thing. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll try this other thing. Very smart person too that told me this. Very, very well educated, smart person. And they just started slapping me. Slapping my arm, slapping my back. Now, slapping the chest, that actually did feel like it might have like helped loosen some stuff up a little bit. Because it just from the sheer length of time that they were sitting there slapping my chest, it was, that may have done something, but like I don't think it did what they think it did. So, I don't know. And yeah, at the end of it, man, my arms, like at the crease of my arms, like on the other side of my elbow, man, it was all bruised, just completely, all broken blood vessels everywhere. It was a mess, and it did not fix. I ended up having to go to the hospital later that same day and get some fucking steroids that I needed, So, but it's just kind of funny the type of beliefs that they have. But even that person, I don't think that they would say that they believed in other gods, and definitely not other gods of their own making. That was the whole point of all of that. Sorry about that. A little bit of a sidetrack there. But, 2. So most people aren't even acquainted with the evidence for Christianity. This is true in particular for university professors. One of the most interesting aspects is is what I'm saying. One of the most interesting aspects of my work is the debates I participate in on university campuses. Typically, I'll be invited onto a campus to debate some professor who has a reputation of being especially abusive to Christian students in their classes. Come on, get the fuck out of here. It's like this is okay. So this is kind of going down. It's almost as if he just saw a movie about this. and thought, I don't know when he did this. When did it say he did the talk? Anyway, I don't know when they did the talk, but this is just God's Not Dead. And it's like, of course, he's going to come in and be the hero of God's Not Dead, right? Of being especially abusive to Christian students in these classes. We'll have a public debate on, say, the existence of God, or Christianity versus humanism, or some such topic. And you know what? I find while most of these fellows are pretty good at beating up intellectually on an 18-year student, they can't even hold their own when it comes to going toe-to-toe with one of their peers. In their first... it's in their first speech, they usually trot out the obsolete 18th century objections of Hume and Kant. And after I answer these, they're just left with nothing much to say. So they start repeating themselves or making emotional appeals. They're especially ignorant of the evidence for the Gospels. Most of them turn out to be just big, inflated, intellectual blowhards who have no good reasons for rejecting Christianity and ridiculing their students' faith. Oh my God, this is all made up. I'm sorry, but I'm not convinced any of this is fucking true. Basically, what he's saying is like, look, one of my favorite things about One of my favorite things about doing what I do is going and being a superhero to these students that are being abused. They're being abused by their professors, these blowhards. They're just getting abused, and just ridiculing, telling all the kids to throw paper balls at their head and stuff. Like, is there a Christian in here? Okay, everybody throw paper balls at them until they leave. Yeah, yeah. I don't know why they're like Southern, but no, I just am not convinced. And then he's basically just like, oh, and then I show up, and yeah, dude, I'm like the best debater ever, and they don't even got nothing. So this is a section of my speech. What is happening? Really? Like, I could put as a part of my speech how these like all these Christians like beat up on their atheist students, and try to and are abusive to them and everything, and are really good at beating up on these poor little students. But when a real atheist like me shows up with good reasons, I just smack them to the ground. Now get the fuck out of here, Jesus! Like, how easily? It's almost like your crowd is just so easily manipulated and easily lied to that they will buy that bullshit. Like, come on, man. Like, you really think that there's like professors that are sitting here being abusive to the fucking students, without them like, reporting them? It's like, come on, give me a fucking break. They would get in trouble. You can't just abuse students. They're paying to be there. You're not gonna fucking be shitty. You're not gonna behave like that to students, that are paying for your, job. And I've talked to several. I haven't gone to college, so I don't know. But like specifically, from my own personal experience. But I have talked to several people that have addressed the movie God's Not Dead, with Kevin Sorbo's character being the professor that's like, you gotta write a paper about why God totes doesn't exist. Like, yeah, like, give me a fucking break. I guess if you're in a debate class where you have to debate something that you don't believe in, that'd be one thing. But like, I don't think, and every single one of the people that I've talked to that have gone to college, and specifically for philosophy, where this type of thing would actually happen, I'd imagine. That would be where it would happen if it were to happen. And they all said that their professors were all Christians. So, I mean, that's what's so weird about this. Like, Christians make up like the majority of the whole fucking country. So it's highly unlikely that there's all these atheist professors just beating up on their 18-year-old students or whatever, right? But not surprising, we all specialize in a certain field and are ignorant of things in other fields. You don't say. Wow. I'm glad you're here to tell us these things, William Lane Craig. I know something about philosophy, but I know absolutely nothing about economics. Here, let me do his voice there. Or chemical engineering and agriculture or business. Thus, it's possible to have a perfectly profound knowledge of one's area of specialization and yet have little better than a Sunday school education when it comes to Christianity. Okay, I can't do that this entire episode. Sorry. Ichi, professor at University of South Carolina, he was a brilliant philosopher of quantum physics, but knew nothing about philosophy of religion. Philosophy of religion? Is that a thing? Wait, philosophy of religion. Okay, I'll give it to him. Maybe it's something I don't understand, but the philosophy of religion. As far as I understand it, philosophy is thinking about thinking. So it's thinking about religion. Okay, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's a thing. Most atheists lost their faith when they were 11 or 12. Nope. Years old, and they've never studied it since. That is just not, in my experience. That's nobody. That's the minority right there. Most of us are well into our adulthood and were raised religious, and saw that there was a big, like, kind of just push to not even ask any questions. And when we did try to ask questions, people would get mad, and and that led to us not being convinced that it's true, especially once we started looking with like the unlimited amounts of information that we have at our fingertips now with the internet. And it's just, kind of just shows like, oh, yeah, we really don't have good reason to think this shit. But anyway, no, they're not 11 or 12 and then haven't read any of the Bible. Like, most atheists know the Bible better than fucking Christians do. It's it's so frustrating when they just completely straw man us. I mean, and this is, again, you got to remember, he's talking to a group of religious people here. He's not talking to atheists. He's not talking to a mixed crowd, I don't think. Because he wouldn't just say like most Christians are 11. Because this is like me saying like, okay, most Christians become Christians at 11 or 12 years old, and then just decide that it's true, and then never question it ever again, and don't read into anything else. Don't read into any other possibilities ever again. That's at 11 or 12. That's every Christian. That's most Christians, right? Like, that's just not factual. Like, I mean, it's just all over the place as far as like why people are Christians and when they become Christians, and and same thing for atheism. So it's stupid. It's just a dumb, like, what's the point of even saying that, So when people say there's not enough evidence, what do they mean? What they mean is there's not enough evidence to coerce me out of my indifference. If I choose to ignore it, the evidence isn't going to grab me by the lapels and force me to believe. No, man, the evidence isn't actually there to like, it's not, even if we look as hard as we possibly can, and a lot of us do, a lot of us look as hard as we fucking can for evidence. There's just not evidence. It can all be easily explained by things that are 100 times more likely than the all-knowing God of the universe send himself to sacrifice himself, to appease himself, to convince himself to save the entire world from, again, himself. So yeah, I'm not, there's a billion other possibilities that are 100 times more likely than that shit. Okay, and it happening at a time when nobody could record it or anything like that. Anyway, stupid. So of course the evidence isn't coercive, but why should it be? Because let me just give it to him. Look, one, it's numbered. Knowledge of God is unique in that it is conditioned by moral and spiritual factors. What? Okay, knowledge of God is unique in that it is conditioned by moral or spiritual factors. I don't really know what that means. By a moral, I guess. Except that it's not really. That's sort of a byproduct, and then you just apply it to your God. And spiritual factors, I don't know. You'd have to tell me what the hell spiritual means. But okay, a spiritually indifferent person can have a profound knowledge of physics or literature or history or sociology or even theology. But a spiritually indifferent person cannot know God. None of that is any word. Like, that's just nonsense. It doesn't mean anything. It's just basically saying, all those idiots that aren't convinced of the thing that I, want them to be convinced of, they can't, know about the stuff that I know because they're not convinced of the stuff I'm convinced of. That's basically what he's saying. It's nonsense. It's saying these idiots, they don't even know how, they don't even get that they can't know God because they're spiritually indifferent. You gotta become spiritually different. According to the Bible, the knowledge of God is promised to those who honestly seek him. Jeremiah, and you shall seek me, and you shall find me, if you seek me with all of your heart. Okay. Jesus, seek and you will find, knock and the door shall be open, ask and it will be given to you. For he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it shall be opened, and to him who asks it shall be given. Okay, but what, so all they're doing is putting the burden right back on the individual, because you can never prove, there's no way to prove that you actually, did seek God or whatever, and we're honest about it. They're constantly like, well, did you find God? No, I didn't find God. Well, then you didn't seek him with all of your heart. Maybe it was just was it 99%? Maybe you're working up to 99.5%, but we got to get you up to the full 100 because you're not, you're just not there. Okay. That's on you. Okay. It's not Jesus. It's not Jesus not existing. That's crazy. It's you not seeking him right. Okay. Uh, and I love this too because a lot of times when people do they make this appeal a lot, and I don't even know what it would be called. But it's just it's the argument from you got to believe it in order to believe it. That's that's what it is. Like, oh, you got to seek him, you got to cry out to him with your whole heart. And I'm like, I don't believe that he exists. Well, you just cry out to him. Okay, so then that he exists to convince myself that he does exist. You're basically just telling me to believe it, regardless of what I actually think. And then one day I'll think I'm right. You know, that one day I'll be like, I was right about just deciding that that's a true thing. But that's their whole bread and butter, right? That's what they need. They need you to believe that, like, in a way that it is that silly. And I know it sounds crazy, but that's literally what gets a lot of people. Who's like, oh, okay, fine. I'll pretend like it's true, And then see, they've kind of primed themselves, right? They've primed themselves that now they are looking for now they are looking for evidence, right? They're looking in their lives. Okay, God, hey, out there, God, can you help me with stuff? Give me a sign, And then, of course, you got all these Christians putting all this Christian imagery and signs, literal signs, a lot of times, up on the fucking highways and streets, and then just, everybody wants to tell everybody that they're Christian and all that. And that's all so that those people that are saying, that in their mind are like, okay, I'm trying to figure out if this is true, and they said to just act like it's true, they will find a sign, because that's how our brains work. If you set up, it's called priming. If you basically tell your brain to look for a particular pattern or look for evidence of a particular narrative being true, your brain will find it. Whether it's there or not, your brain will find it. We are pattern recognition fucking machines. We love finding patterns. We find patterns when there aren't any. That's what apophenia is. That's how we can see like faces in wood, like in meaningless like noise with like wood and stuff. It's just like a couple holes in the wood, and there's a face. 3 holes, boom, face. No, 2 eyes and mouth, boom, face. Like that's how we can do that. It's because our brains are conditioned to look for patterns. So this is a major tactic of the religious right, is to say, hey, just look for this thing. Look. I mean, you got to trust me. This is true. Okay, now go in your lived life and look for all the signs that, God is trying to communicate with you or whatever, right? And then they see all these little things, and they find the patterns that they've conditioned their brain to look for, That's it. It's real simple. But okay, so 2, God doesn't force himself upon us, unless you're Mary. You know what I'm saying? Oh man. Oh, rape jokes aren't good. Sorry. It's not funny. That's not funny. Jesus. He has given evidence of himself which is sufficiently clear for those with an open mind and an open heart, but sufficiently vague so as to not compel those who hearts are closed. I think they mean whose hearts are closed. The great French mathematical genius Blaise. Oh, cool. Blaise Pascal. That's a great name. Is that the Pascal's wager, Pascal? That's a great name. I didn't know his name was Blaise. That's awesome. Jesus, that could be a movie, man. Blaise Pascal in Pascal's wager. You gotta pay up, Pascal. You gotta pay up with the big man upstairs. Jesus, I'm on a tear today. Willing to appear openly to those who seek him with all their heart, and to be hidden from those who flee from him with all their heart. God so regulates the knowledge of himself that he has given indications of himself which are visible to those who seek him and not to those who do not seek him. There is enough light for those to see who only desire to see, and enough obscurity for those who have a contrary disposition. No. Wow, that is just honestly, it's no, it's just if you're gullible or not, you're gonna believe it. Like, yeah, I mean, people think the Earth is flat. Okay, there's not. People think that lizard aliens rule the government. Okay, it's not. you know, like, and what if I just said, hey, these lizard aliens, these shapeshifters, they're really like, they have telepathic powers, which I honestly think that is part of the lore, is that they do have telepathic powers. So they have telepathic powers, right? And they decide. I mean, they can basically make themselves apparent or not apparent to people. They can hide themselves, right? But if you actually want to know the truth, you can see that these reptilian humanoids are ruling the government. But if you but they can cloud your senses if you don't want to know about them. That's all they're doing. They're just, again, they're putting the burden back on the individual and putting the responsibility for everything on the individual. So they're like, look, if you don't see them, it's because you're not doing it right. Once again, if you don't see God where I tell you should see God, you're not trying to enough or whatever. You're not trying too hard enough, whatever, right? In other words, the evidence is there for those who have eyes to see it. I have eyes, and I'm not seeing it. It's not actually there. You're just deciding that things are evidence for a conclusion that you've already decided is true, and you're working your way backwards to make arguments for something that I almost guarantee is actually bullshit. But, I can't prove that you actually know or don't know anything. But is there enough evidence for faith to be rational? I would argue still no. Look, as far as rational goes, like if you have like some just belief that a God, a creator God is the reason why we exist here or whatever, that's fine. That's one thing, right? That's I mean, it's not fine. I mean, it's whatever. It's still rational though. It's going, hey, I don't know how we got here, but I bet you something created us that was some all powerful being, right? What's not rational is going, okay, something created us, yeah, and I know exactly what it is. I know exactly what it wants. I know exactly how to please it. I know, and I know all this stuff, and I see it communicating with me throughout the day, every day. Like I stubbed my toe, and that was because I said something earlier that day that I shouldn't have, and that was God punishing me. That's not rational. None of that is rational. Okay, that's where you lose the rationality there. So there's not enough evidence to be coercive, but is there enough evidence for faith to be rational? Of course there is. The traditions of arguments for the existence of God and evidences of Christianity are not coercive, but they are certainly sufficient to make Christian belief rational. Yeah, no, nobody, nope. It's, again, he's just saying it. So, existence of God, there has been literally a revolution in American philosophy with regard to this question being the second half of the 20th century. Back in the 40s and 50s, it was widely believed among philosophers that talk about God was meaningless. Oh, yeah. Literal gibberish to say. God loves you and created you to know him. It is as meaningful as saying, "'Twas blig a bunch of nonsense." I can't read all that. They didn't even have to go into all that. That's ridiculous. It's just blah, 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 blah. Okay. Complete nonsense, yes. This movement reached its crescendo in America with the death of God theology of the mid 1960s. On April 8th, 1966, in a dramatic red on black cover, the Time magazine asked, "Is God dead?" That's great. I mean, that implies that he was alive at some point. I don't know. But at the same time that theologians were writing God's obituary, a new generation of philosophers were rediscovering his vitality. Just a few years after its Death of God issue, Time ran a similar red on black cover study cover study. Only this time, the question read, "Is God coming back to life?" That's how it must have seemed to those theological morticians of the 1960s. During the 70s, interest in the philosophy of religion continued to grow, and in 1980, Time ran another major story entitled Modernizing the Case for God, in which it described the movement among contemporary philosophers to refurbish their traditional arguments for God's existence. This is from like Time magazine. So okay, Time marveled in a quiet revolution in thought and argument that hardly anybody could have foreseen only 2 decades ago. God is making a comeback. Most intriguingly, this is happening not among the theologians or ordinary believers, but in the crisp intellectual circles of academic philosophers, where the consensus had long banished the Almighty from fruitful discourse. So they're basing this off of the fucking article, like a Time article. Because Time, if they write an article about whether or not God is alive or dead, like that means it has to be happening, right? It's not like this sort of dialogue or anything that's been going on since God, I don't know, hundreds of years. No. It was just decided upon in 1960, right? God's dead. Boom. Get him out of here. Get it out of here. I don't want to believe it. You know what? And then like a decade later, you know what? Maybe we were being too hasty with this whole God's dead thing. Maybe we should take another look at that. Let's get some philosophers in here, huh? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because there's never been Christian philosophers before. That's just like so stupid. Jesus Christ. And so from here, we'll go ahead and take it from here, and we'll start up here for part 2 the next time I get to it. If we have a guest or something like that, like I'll skip this part 2. But thank you for listening. This was a lot of fun. This one's pretty cool. I'm so glad when I found this. Just a complete transcript of William Lane Craig doing one of his self-congratulatory talks. And yeah, so we will pick this up for part 2 next time. If you want to, you can go to patreon.com/unapologetics, spelled like the show, and you can give us a per episode donation, or you can pay per month. It's up to you. You don't have to, or you could just not do it at all. You could just give us a 5-star review wherever podcasts live, or wherever you're listening to them. Hopefully, like on Amazon and stuff, or is it not Amazon? I'm sorry, iTunes would be great. And if you want to, you can hang out and join the Secret Underground Party on Facebook. It's a Facebook group. Just look up groups and look up Unapologetics. And if you become a patron for, if it's like I want to say like more than $5, you can be added to a group on Facebook that's just me. It's just my group, and it's just for me and patrons of $5 or more. And actually, yeah, I need to. I just started this one, so I'm gonna be adding. If you want to send me a message that you want to be in the group, just go ahead and send me a message, and I will give you the link, and then I will let you into the group. Just gotta have evidence that you are a patron, and that's it. So as long as you're a patron of $5 or more, you can be part of the group, and you can suggest articles. You'll see the articles that we're gonna cover beforehand. You'll see like my kind of like opening thoughts on the articles and stuff like that. So hopefully you will enjoy that. And yeah, if you want to email the show, email us at unapologetics, spelled like the show, 666@gmail.com. And we got our little sign off here. What do we say to the haters, discriminators, and masturbator shamers? Fuck off.